So I direct the Immigrants' Rights Clinic. We do a lot of different kinds of work. So what I thought I would do today, rather than kind of just drone on and on about things in general, I thought I would just talk about some particular projects that fall into a couple of different buckets of work that we do. And then I have students who are here who are going to give you their impressions of being in the clinic. 3 students who are all in the clinic this year who will tell you a little bit about the work that they've been doing in the clinic this year. So we are the Immigrants' Rights Clinic and not the Immigration Clinic, because we don't just do immigration work. We also do a whole bunch of different kinds of work related to immigrants' rights. So that's civil rights, human rights, and other kinds of work. I would say that we really do work that's in 5 different categories. And I'll go over them briefly, and then I'll kind of tell you about some cases, and the students will tell you about some cases to kind of make it more concrete. So the first category of work that we do is removal defense. That means government's trying to deport people and we're trying to stop them from deporting people. This is litigation. We're in immigration court. It doesn't look exactly like federal court or state court, but it is trial work. We have at least 1 trial every year. And we're going to have Maggie talk about her experience. We just had a trial on Friday, which we won. So Maggie's going to talk a little bit about that. Then we have a second bucket of work, which is humanitarian immigration. So this can mean a lot of different things, but this is basically people who are in the United States who would like to stay for humanitarian reasons. We represent them to make sure that they have a path to permanent residence in the United States. That could mean asylum. That could mean representing human trafficking victims in civil and criminal proceedings, working with unaccompanied minors, and also with victims of serious crime. Okay, so we're going to hear a little bit about that. We also have a detention docket. Detention work is really near and dear to my heart. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are detained as part of the immigration detention system every year. So we represent immigrants who we are trying to get out of detention. One aspect of that is our national security related work. The government has special rules for when they are detaining people that they are accusing of being national security risks. And we make sure that the government is still complying with the Constitution. And those cases are in federal court. Those are federal habeas petitions that we file. And then we have another part of the docket, which is federal affirmative litigation. This is often related to civil rights work. We're going to hear about one such case that we filed this year. And we also do some law and organizing work with community organizations on the South Side. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. Okay, so that's sort of the overview. All right, so removal defense. Maggie is going to tell you a little bit about her experience doing removal defense this year and what it was like being a student in the clinic.
Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Maggie. I'm a 3L, and yes, as Nicole mentioned, the case that we just wrapped up was removal defense case. So our client actually had status. He was a legal permanent resident in the United States, but he had several criminal convictions that made him deportable, and so that status was taken away from him. And he is also actually currently serving time in prison for one of his criminal convictions. And we were defending him in his removal proceedings. And because of the criminal convictions that he had and the severity of them, he was basically not eligible for a lot of different types of relief. And so our claim was the only one available to him, which was a Convention Against Torture claim. So we were arguing that if he were returned to his home country, which is a Latin American country, a Central American country, that he would be tortured by the government and various private actors. And we presented that case in front of the Chicago Immigration Court on Friday, and we actually won the case. The judge gave an oral decision at the end of the proceedings, and the government chose not to appeal. So that decision is final, and he will be able to stay in the US and rejoin his family after serving his prison sentence. It's a very, very exciting result. And in terms of the kinds of projects that I wanted to do coming to the clinic, I would say that, this was my #1 choice, and I'm really happy I got it. And I was really looking for trial experience, real world experience. And I can confidently say that after this entire experience, I was able to do everything that I really was interested in doing. So our team basically, ran the entire case with Nicole's supervision, but we did the research. We found the experts to testify on his behalf on both, his mental health issues and also the country conditions where he's from. We wrote the brief. I think the most exciting thing for me was being able to direct examine the witnesses at the trial. So we each kind of split up which witnesses we wanted to question, and we got to do that ourselves as well. So I really feel like, it was an amazing experience, and I gained so many applicable real-world lawyering skills from it. So I would recommend this clinic to anyone.
Great. So we do at least one trial every year. So if you are interested in getting trial experience, again, it's not quite the same as federal litigation, but those skills are transferable. And also, if you're interested in criminal defense work, we work at the intersection. So many of our removal defense cases are people who have criminal convictions, and there are what we call crim-im issues that are related to it. All right, humanitarian immigration. Who decided? So multiple people have worked on humanitarian immigration. Okay. So this is Alice. She's going to tell you about a humanitarian immigration case she worked on this year.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alice. I am a 3L, and I've been in the clinic now for 2 years. And one of the cases that I had the opportunity to work on was with a client who was the spouse of one of our clients who we represented on a humanitarian parole application a year ago to get both of them reunited in the United States. They both received threats against their lives, one an attempt against his life in their home country of Syria. So they came to the United States under humanitarian parole and now are trying to stay in the United States because of this fear to return to their home country. Their fear is based on sort of ties to the US military and threats that they received because of their relationship to US military bases in Syria. And the clinic work for affirmative asylum applications is one of my favorite components of immigration work, because you develop a relationship with a client as you're going through sort of a multitude of forms for immigration procedures and process, which I think can be really hard to interface with clients who are like, why do you need to know all this information? And you are helping them navigate a really obtuse and complicated and bureaucratic system, but at the same time, it allows you to develop relationships and build rapport with folks. As part of the work, we develop and write affidavits with our clients. We work with experts on country conditions. We, occasionally refer clients for social service supports because we try to acknowledge that engagement with the immigration system here in the United States is never going to be without trauma, or it's never going to be without some collateral consequences for individuals. So we try to meet those needs as best as we can, while also giving them some really zealous advocacy and representation in their immigration process, if that's an affirmative asylum application or if that's representing folks who are detained.
All right, great. Thank you, Alice. Okay, now we're going to move on to detention and national security, and Sophia is going to talk about a case she worked on. We do need to keep it brief so that everyone else has time.
So the case that I primarily worked on this past year is with Omar Amin, you can see on the screen. So Omar came to the US in 2014 from Iraq, and after coming to the US as a refugee with his wife and children, was accused of the murder of a police officer in Iraq, and was placed into proceedings within the US after being accused of terrorism. So we've been working with this case. Alice was also on this team last year and argued and won it at the district court. It's now on appeal at the Ninth Circuit, and it's been a really, really fascinating case. I came into law school really interested in kind of the intersection between national security work and immigration, and I do think that this is just an incredible opportunity to work with one of the most high-profile cases in the U.S., but also being able to work directly with a client and getting that, building a relationship and knowing that that can look like after graduation has been a really fantastic experience. I also just can't recommend the clinic enough for that.
Yeah, and it's a habeas petition
Yes.
that we filed on his behalf, so that's the detention component of it. Okay, so I'm going to skip that because we don't have time. Alice, would you like to tell everyone about the federal litigation you've worked on this year?
Yeah, so as you can see on the screen, we represented a father and son who were subjected to the family separation policy implemented by President Trump in 2018 and went through, again, a sort of cascading series of trauma as a result of this family separation. The father was unlawfully deported in 2019. It was a battle to get him back into the United States. We didn't work on that case, but we were referred the case for this federal litigation suit under the Federal Tort Claims Act. So we are working with the family to sue the US government and ICE for the harms that they inflicted upon the minor son. He was 16 when he was first detained and separated from his dad, and his dad as well. So the process has been working really closely with our clients. Again, I think a theme of this work is that you get to work with people and develop skills and build relationships, which I think is amazing. And then also sort of try to figure out how to apply it compellingly towards the law that as it stands. So in this case, tort law that all of you have done in your first year of law school, coming around or feeling like for the first time, for me, like the most like tangible application of torts. That's not like, I don't know, someone having a chair hit them after being dumped out of a hotel room, whatever. So we apply the facts to the case, and we're currently in district court responding to a motion to dismiss from the government. The things that you learn in this type of litigation are civil procedure. You get to apply civil procedure all the time. You get to work on your briefing skills, oral argument skills, if judges schedule oral arguments, and yeah, I know we're short on time, but it's an amazing experience, and Nicole's a wonderful supervisor.
Wow. Oh, thank you, Alice. And assuming we win the motion to dismiss, I think we will, this case will be going into discovery, so we'll be doing depositions and all sorts of different types of discovery, so you get that experience as well.